there any objection? There is objection. Question number 7, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by all his answers to oral question number 1 on the 16th of August 2011?
The Honourable Paula Bennett on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Of course.
The Honourable Annette King.
Given his statement in Parliament on the 16th of August that the report from Every Child Counts was rubbish, a report that estimated the cost of poor child outcomes at $6 billion per year, what is his estimation of the actual cost of child poverty in New Zealand?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, in the context of the Prime Minister's statement on behalf of him, it was quite clear that he was saying that 6 of the key indicators were not available, so hence in the context of him making the statement that it was rubbish, so the ranking becomes kind of relative. 2 of the ratings used, the indicators were wrong, so that's in the context of him using that statement.
Order. I invite the Honourable Annette King to repeat a question. It was a very interesting answer, but I'm not sure it was actually an answer to the question asked. The Honourable Annette King may repeat the question.
Given his statement in Parliament on the 16th of August, the report from the Every Child Counts was rubbish, a report that estimated the cost of poor child outcomes at $6 billion per year, what is his estimation of the actual cost of child poverty in New Zealand?
Mr Speaker, so I think it's entirely appropriate to put context around the Prime Minister's statement when he made it that the report was rubbish. So the member has then gone on to make an assumption as to why he made that comment and that it was about the $6 billion, whereas actually his comment was made in the context of 6 of the key indicators were not available, 2 of the figures used for the indicators were wrong, and the report did not include government spending such as health and other social investments.
Point of order has been pulled. Well,
Mr Speaker, I think you got it right last time when the supplementary was asked.
Well, no,
Mr.
order.
Speaker.
With respect, I think the Minister did clear up misunderstanding with that answer, because she pointed out in more detail that the Prime Minister's dismissal of the report, or his description of the report, was not related specifically to the cost. It was not the cost that he was arguing was rubbish. It was other aspects of the report that he was questioning, and that's a perfectly fair answer. It would seem the Minister is not disputing the cost side of it.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Honourable Trevor Mallard, point of order.
Mr Speaker, while you interpreted as the Minister not disputing the costs, it was a very specific question about the costs which the Minister didn't refer to. Normally in this House, I think we have an arrangement where ministers say if they don't dispute it.
I invite the member to look at the Hansard. I seem to recollect the member referring to the cost as not being what the Prime Minister was disputing. I accept my hearing's not great today at all, but I believe I heard that, and that's why I think it's that second one was a better explanation and a reasonable answer. The Honourable Annette King.
Question. In light of the report from Every Child Counts, which estimates the cost of poor child outcomes in New Zealand at $6 billion per year, what is his estimation on the actual cost of child poverty in New Zealand?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, in all fairness, there are a number of reports and a number of evaluations and a number of estimates that are going on discussing whether we have a problem and then its magnitude, and then whether or not what the actual cost of that might be. And that is both commendable and actually predictable for this point in the election cycle. This side of the House are not getting into an argument as to whether we have a problem. Mr Speaker, we think we do. Hence why we are putting such a massive investment into children in this country.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, while again I respect your interpretation of the supplementary answer before this one, I think I might have just been proven right, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, you indicated that the Minister hadn't disputed the figure. She was asked whether, on this particular occasion, if the figure wasn't right, what was it? It was clear, well, I thought it was clear, Mr Speaker, that she was now disputing it.
The member makes a perfectly reasonable point. I invite the member, because if I recollect the question correctly, it was actually a pretty precise question. It didn't contain a lot of criticism of it contained no criticism of anything the Prime Minister said. It just asked, if I read it correctly, what the government's current estimate of that cost was. If I invite the member to repeat a question in case I've got it wrong, the Honourable Annette.
No, I said in light of the report from the Every Child Counts, which estimated the cost of poor child outcomes at $6 billion per year, what is his estimation on the actual cost of child poverty in New Zealand?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, and on behalf of the Prime Minister, the point that I make is that there has been a number of reports out over the last 12 months in particular that is both commendable and quite predictable at this point of an election cycle, and that I think that there is merit, that there is child poverty. That is why this government is actually putting the sort of investment it does on particularly early investment in those years that matter most.
Well, I can anticipate the member's point of order, but it doesn't seem much point in pursuing the matter because it appears the Prime Minister doesn't have an estimate, at least the Minister answering on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallett.
If again, going back 2 questions, it might appear that way, Mr Speaker, but I think when a direct question is asked, if the Prime Minister doesn't have an estimate, I think he's obliged to say so, not just to waffle around the edge of it. Does the member wish to speak to the point of order?
If you'd like further clarification, Mr Speaker, I'm quite happy to give that.
If the Minister can give a more precise... The question is asked, what is the Prime Minister's estimate of the cost of child poverty, given that the figure in the report being referred to was $6 billion from memory. If the Minister can help clarify that so that the House can make progress, it would be helpful. The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, my point is that there's been a number of reports and that they actually go from low to relatively high. I don't have those numbers in front of me and I'm not prepared to just pick one out.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Does he stand by his statement, or the statement in the government's Green Paper on vulnerable children, that the government will ensure ongoing research and evaluation to identify vulnerable children and to ensure interventions are effective?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, yes, not a lot of that work has been done, particularly in the last 10 years, so we're having to pick up evaluations that had not been done on which children are vulnerable, where they are, what programs are effective. We've put a number of initiatives in place. The Ministers of Health, Education in particular, are focusing on those early years, as well as certainly through my own department. To give some example, those sort of positive behaviour programs, Family Start, just to name a couple, but there's a lot more as well.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. In light of that answer, why is the Growing Up in New Zealand multidisciplinary study that produced its first report last year, in which the Minister of Social Development acknowledged showed that those in lower incomes are not accessing the services and help they need, having their funding cut by his government? And doesn't it make a mockery out of his claim that policy should be evidence-based when he cuts the very ability to gather such evidence?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I don't have the actual number in front of me, but know that it is millions that is going into the Growing Up campaign. Actually, when Labor left office, they had not fully funded it through into subsequent years. So they had set it up, but not actually funded it going forward. This government has put forward literally millions more into it, and that funding is going in.
Question number 8, Nikki Kay. Order, we've dealt with that.